buddy. Oh, I forgot to get a glove on. But here is where we left off yesterday. We started the skin. I mean, we still have to do, we still have to do the back, but we still have to refine it. It's mostly just kind of, I don't want to say sketched. It's a little more than sketched, but it's not refined. It's not finished. Started the black cloth, base coated these red bits and the gold bits here. So today we're going to be doing the red so we can get into the gold in here, and then doing the gold weapon and like these little gold things. See how much of that we can get done. Get that glove on. All right, so for the red, we're going to use this Cartacci red, which is what we use for basing. We mixed it with Pro Acryl's Mahogany. We have some Cartacci red. We have bold Pyro red. We're going to put a little bit of bright pale yellow. So let's add a little transparent yellow too. Just in case we want it to be a little orangey, since we are going for like a warm light here. Okay, so for the fabric, it's going to be, well, the spots that I can will be similar to how we did this, stippling on and stuff. There's a lot of like in between these runes that don't really make sense, but whatever. But in terms of highlights and stuff, as you can see, just like this, like as it kind of comes out further away from the body, the light source will be hitting it. So kind of in line with these highlights here, this will be your brightest spot, this will be your brightest spot, and then kind of darken up as it like curls in, and then darken back up again. And maybe, does it kind of come out a little? Not really, but put a little bit of like a highlight right here. All right, so right over this base coat, let's just start the stippling process. This base coat does not have like 100% coverage. You can see there's still some like black primer kind of showing through in some spots. And that's perfectly fine because that just gives us a little bit of texture. So for this little bit of cloth here, he's not really getting a lot of highlight. In fact, it's really getting no highlight. So I am going to use this like highlight color here, but I'm going to glaze over everything. Again, this is mostly just so you can see that there's texture work. I get some of that mahogany. So I want to glaze it kind of with the, excuse me, the base coat color. That was the dried paint on the top of the mahogany. There we go. I might need that for the gold. I probably should have put more on the palette, but whatever. All right, there we go. So you can see that there's texture in there, but you're not getting a whole lot of value right there because, you know, it's kind of going in. But you'll see when we get to these spots, a lot higher value. All right. Let's get onto these ribbons here. That's too much paint. Too much paint. This brush is too big for this spot. Again, like yesterday with the stippling, especially these first steps. Now it's too thin. What the hell? There we go. You don't really need the best brush with like the sharpest point. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but this one's actually splitting a little. And for stippling, at least the first stage is totally fine. That actually helps you. It gives you more random dot placement. I will try to just kind of cover the edges. These ribbon things don't really make a whole lot of sense with like this double edge here, but you know, I'm just gonna paint how it's sculpted. And yeah, I'll like this, you know, I'll give it a glaze, filter with that essentially the base coat color. And it will cover the runes again, which is totally fine because the mahogany is a good base coat for gold. Right. Get a little bit of this red, bold pyro red by itself. Start about here. Try to hit the edge of this cloth that isn't its runes. I get this more orangey red, kind of orangish, kind of pinkish. Kind of stop around here because it starts curling down. And of course, this is different than painting like a silk type fabric, because that is almost like painting non-metallic metal, where you get really big shiny spots and you go for like really smooth blends. So this, you're all about the texture. Yeah, let's use a bigger brush for that. All right, so now we're glazing back, kind of blending some of those stipples into each other, toning them down a bit, and we'll come back and reinforce the highlights once this is all dry. While we're waiting for that to dry, we'll start on this side. All right, let me get a little light up here. So like this part, you know, we're just mostly looking for the texture here. This is going to get covered up. We're not really getting a lot of light. Obviously there's bounce lights and stuff, so you'll still be able to see it, but it's not going to get highlights or anything. And what I was talking about yesterday, so you want like the value up here to be higher than down here. That's why like this highlight here, even though it's kind of directly in the light, is not as high value as up here. Your top, you just kind of want it to go from like light to a little dark. So what you do is when you're down towards the bottom, like the midtones from up here will kind of be your highlights and everything else will be darker. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because all of these runes here are going to be non-metallic gold. So the brightest highlights in these gold bits down here will basically be like the midtones in the gold up here. Maybe a little bit brighter because it's metal. But the highlight up here will be like almost white, while it's down here, even though in the direct light, just to kind of keep that overall like good value transition will not be as bright. I was thinking hopefully this red cloth makes a little more sense once the gold goes down, because it, with all these dark spots in here, it just kind of looks a little silly. Not very cloth-like yet. Place this bit here. We will let that dry. Let's see how this is. I want to change the playlist. That was supposed to be a shoegaze playlist, and it wasn't very shoegazy. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to come in with some much whiter, kind of pinkish orange, and then I'm going to glaze back over these highlights with the bold pyro red. Get that edge there, this edge here. All right, take that bold pyro red, glaze over this, take away some of those pinkish tones and leave some vibrant reds. All right, there's some red cloth. Obviously, we have a whole bunch more, but not the most exciting thing to see on stream. We got the little ones here. I'll probably do those off stream, and we can just move on to the gold. So we got a lot of gold to do. The big annoying things are going to be all these runes in here, but you know. All right, so I already got some mahogany on the palette, and we're going to do some gold 79 from the Robert Carlson Chimera set. And I have the bright pale yellow, which was from the Flamion Pro Acryl set. We'll get a little bit more transparent yellow. It's good to blend that in a little. And let's get that's some Croxagore Scales contrast paint. We want to desaturate the gold a little for the more shadowy areas. So we start with the gold 79 and a little bit of the mahogany. Let's get a little bit more in there. So I'm just kind of starting a little bit of where the light will go. I'll come back in a minute here and just kind of highlight sketch. But essentially it's going to look like that, where everything that I just put the paint down, that's where your big highlights are going to go, and then everything that is still base coated will be the more shadowy gold, like the light's not really hitting it. And of course we can put in like some dark reflections and stuff. And then we have to treat these flat panels the way they should. Actually, those are okay. That's separate. It's not one full flat, but we'll get those flat panels treated properly. All right, mixing some of that bright pale yellow with the gold 79. And we'll come back with like a little bit of a sketch for our brightest highlights, how it's gonna go. All right, let's see. It's coming this way. The light down here. Most of these two will be dark. We'll get this little tip here. All right. You see already it's almost looking kind of gold. So we'll come back. Let me find the proper brush here. All right, just making some quick mixes here. We got the gold 79 with a little bit of mahogany, which is basically the first thing we put on. Gold 79 with some of the Croxuar scales. That's the more kind of desaturated a bit for this shadow over here. Take some of this bright pale yellow and transparent yellow. Mix it in. So we have a bit of transition there. All right. Let's start painting. Got a cat hair in the bristles. There we go. Excuse me, I'm going to get some of that mahogany by itself. And that will kind of be our darkest reflection color. That little corner there will be pretty dark. And then we can use some of this bright pale yellow as our like final highlight color. So we'll get some bright dots right there. So I am working with some thin paints. That last layer I just did was a little too thin, but it's okay. One of the things about non-metallic metal, or just should say metal in general, because that's what we're working with here. Light will catch on the edges. So when we come down to these shadow areas, you know, most of this will still be dark, but we'll still get an edge highlight, especially when the light source is not just like hitting this and this only, you know. Actually, if we go like that, there we go. Now we have the perspective of like our light or our light source and how it's coming down. There we go. So you see it's hitting this edge here, but it's not just hitting that. It's also hitting the ground and then bouncing up. So it's not really illuminating this, but you know, that will still catch those edges. So we'll end up edge highlighting everything for the non-metallic metal. That's part of how you get your non-mets to look bright and shiny and realistic. That's the big thing with non-metallic metal. It's not so much about how you paint it. It's where you put your lights and shadows and bounce reflections. Because non-metallic metal is not a technique, it is a result. You can paint it using many different techniques. So we've got a little bit of light right here. I forgot how much when he's like on the base here, this is kind of facing downward. So I am going to add a little bit of black to the palette just so we can get some like very dark reflections. I won't be using pure black. I'll mix it with the mahogany. So there's still some tint in there. Go a little higher value in this corner. All right, so now we're going to do this flat panel here. And the way you kind of do flat panels as non-metallic metals, wherever the light source is coming, so it's kind of coming this direction. It's a little hard on this, but basically where the light hits, it actually goes dark to light. So if we're saying it's kind of coming from here, maybe it's like hitting here and just going down to the light. So that's how I'm going to do it. So it'll get darkest right here. You can see that it's kind of tilted. In order for me to see it and the camera to see it, it's got to be at a weird angle. Maybe go like this. I'm going to come back into here. Our edge highlights. Not too thick. There we go. All right, we'll get that a little bit lighter. And then we got another little flat panel going that way. right, so we're not using the bright pale yellow by itself for this highlight there, but it's almost just mixing a little bit of that previous mix in there. All right. So on this underside here, like I said, this is bouncing light up, so we're going to get a reflection on the edge here. But we're not going to do like a bright highlight. A lot of the highlights for your non-metallic metal will kind of be your midtones. Like every dark reflection bit that has an edge will get a mid-tone highlight. Because putting that mid-tone right up next to the dark reflection will make that mid-tone look even brighter. And with this edge down here, so this spot right here is essentially pretty dark because basically this guy is kind of casting a shadow on the one below it. That cat hair out of the bristle, but coming out of that shadow, the light that we'll see will kind of be reflecting the gold up there. So we go a little more orange because gold reflecting on gold kind of has a little orange tint to it. And do that same little orange glaze down here as well. Just a little. Okay. We get that edge there, so now we got this edge will get a little lighter. Mm, I might even come back a little later with some pure white and just put some like little dots in some of the brightest reflections. Let's start just the really dark. say this one's, you know, it's pretty dark. It's not getting the direct light, but it is getting some bounce. No. Try to lessen this edge highlight here. There we go. It was coming over a little too much. Just want it on the edge. Little black line right there. All right. Like that could have been a little bit lighter. We'll extend this highlight a little. That's a little better. Now we're going to work on this side of the little weapon thingy. Hey, Dave. How's it going? We'll start with this little spiky bit. Which actually has sculpted in like a crack right there. So we'll ignore that for right now, and then when it comes time, we'll come back and just fill it in with like black. Yeah, I'm okay. Nothing to complain about today. All right, just want to make sure that that crack is pronounced. We got another one right here. We can. I mean, there's some beat up sections on this weapon here. Take some of that bright pale yellow by itself. That is way too thin. I had too much water in the brush. There we go. Just want to get this underlined really bright. Make that crack nice and pronounced, and I might come back with some pure white again, that I was saying, and just get some little dots. Oh my god. Fucking OneDrive. Driving me insane. Alright. I'm just gonna get the gold 79 by itself and cover this whole little section. Figure out where to go from there. All right, so like I said, most of this is dark, but again, you know, we're getting the little bounce reflection from the ground, so we can kind of put a lighter area like right there, but it will still be fairly dark. And this is where we're going to use the mix with the Croc score scales to get it a little greener, a little more desaturated. I'm covering the whole section with this color, and then I'll come back with the darker reflections. Now we kind of have our light bit here. This will be our ground reflection right there, our bounce reflection. A little greener, not as high values up there. And we can use that actually, it probably is the edge highlight on the bottom. Yes, I am, Dave. It's only about a half-hour longer drive than the old location. All right. Actually, I might want to tone that down just a little bit. So well, it looks like there is a kind of gash piece right there. So yeah, we'll get this a little bit darker. Black line that scratch and then give it a bit of a highlight. Make it more noticeable. So are you guys flying into Milwaukee or into O'Hare and then driving up? I don't know what the situation is with the Milwaukee airport. No, the international guys couldn't really get a direct flight. So they're all doing O'Hare and taking the train or renting a car. At least the UK guys that I know. hair than driving. That's the plan. I need to look into getting a car soon. I don't know if you can really see that. There we go. It's not feeling like much today. Promised a friend I would go for a walk, so I did that a bit. We walked the Jersey Mikes. And I haven't had Jersey Mikes in a while. It was an extra quiet song. I don't know why this song was so quiet. Right. So these guys over here are not getting a whole lot of light. Except for this little bit there that I am going to kind of come back and desaturate a bit. Destination, I'm hungry. Yeah, there you go. And one nice thing about Adepticon moving to Milwaukee instead of Schaumburg is you're actually in like downtown Milwaukee, and you can walk from the hotels to like the river right there, and then you can go a little further and go to Lake Michigan. Some nice scenery. It's not just the suburban hellscape that is Schaumburg, Illinois. So there'll be nice walking areas if you want to get away from everything for a bit. Food options would be great. Yeah, there's a lot of good restaurants like right by. There's a giant like upscale food court that's I don't think it's across the street from the hotel, but it's like a block away or so, maybe 2 blocks. That looked pretty cool. Tons of variety in there. Where a lot of these spots are getting that like very dark, desaturated shadow color. But like I said, we're still gonna get like a edge highlight them on them. It'll be a desaturated mid-tone. It'll be super cold though, right? I mean, you've been to enough Adepticons. It's the same weather. You never know. End of March, early April in the Midwest, it could be 80 degrees. It could be a blizzard. Could be anything in between. I mean, sometimes it gets very warm. You never know. I know our definitions of warm are different. Something that's warm to me is a little chilly to you. But we could get temps in like the 70s and 80s, you know? It's March, it's spring. Who knows? We're going to talk to my two about cornhole. Really need to get making that trophy. I still haven't messaged Tim. I should do that today. Like, I don't know if he ever bought his own set of boards. All right, I'm going to actually glaze over this edge highlight because it's a little strong. But for now, it's working. Stop coming off. Stop coming off. There we go. I think the EU will lose again. I don't know. Aren't you guys practicing at SMC and Monty now? Was there no boards at Monty this year? I know last year I saw videos of it. Or I guess at that point I should say last year was 2024, so 2023 I saw videos. They had some bad boards. Were they like the plastic ones that have way too much bounce and slide? So this little guy here, say it's pretty dark there. We'll get a little bit of light there. Trampolines, yeah, those ones are terrible. But you know that's how you practice, just getting in the hole every time. You know, it's kind of like a hint of light right there. We should get someone at Adepticon to buy a official set of boards. Get one of those like professional cornhole league board sets. I think they're like $300. Or maybe it's 300 if you get like one of their miscast or missed one of the ones with like little errors on it, imperfections. Well, I think it's PCL, Professional Cornhole League. So if you look that up, look up those boards. I know they do have options. You can get your own like custom logos and stuff on there. I don't know if I'm getting the desired effect there. I'm trying to get those cracks really accentuated. Now, if you want to have some real fun with the Europeans, talk to Walter's Workshop. I'll get those get the axe throwing competition going. Thought they would allow us to do that. Well, that's why I say talk to Walter. He'll get the official seal of approval. Bring in all the professional equipment. Get ESPN on board. All right. You know what? This is wrong. Based on our light source, this should be reversed. All right, let me get that pure white. We're just putting this in the brightest reflection areas, and a lot of times it's just going to be like a little dot, especially on edge highlights. It's okay to put little dots in various places too, because sometimes, there's imperfections in the metal, little nicks, and it's going to cause a glint of light. So there's going to be... Oh, no, that's not metal. Okay, I thought these were two metal rings around, like, the handle. Maybe they are. Maybe they're just kind of half sculpted. Fuck it. I'm not going to do it. I'll ignore those. Okay, so we have, like, these things. Same. And then I wanted to do some of the gold runes here. So we can kind of start working on that. I'm going to come into where it's the brightest highlight just to get some of these out of the way. This bit here is going to be the most tedious part of this entire model. It's one of the reasons I'm not the biggest fan of sculpted lettering, runes and stuff. Try to avoid sculpted letterings and runes. I mean, sometimes it can work if it's not a lot. But this has it all over every ribbon thing and the trim of the black cloth there. It's kind of a lot. Same thing with, like, I don't know how you call it, like engraved stuff. Like if you ever look at like a Stormcast Eternal sword, I hate that engraved engraved lettering on the swords. It makes it so much more difficult to paint just like a non-metallic sword. You know, don't just take my word. Talk to other painters, see how they feel. Maybe I'm in the wrong. I don't know. But whenever I do like a Stormcast guy and they got that stuff in the sword, I always like fill it in with milliput or something. All right. So you can kind of see how this is going to go. We're going to get the brightest reflections on the gold right here. And then kind of less high value as we get into this little inward fold. Have you sculpted anything with like this stuff or like the engraved lettering things? Like I don't remember ever seeing any of that stuff on your sculpts anyway. So a lot of this is like the same repeating symbol over and over again. Like, is that intentional or they just get lazy? You better. I hated them when I tried painting. There you go. Yeah, that's a potential freehand services. Especially with stuff like this. Like if you feel like it should have lettering on it, like the painter will feel that way too. And probably want to do their own thing. Now I get it. Like I get why Games Workshop does it for the gaming stuff because a lot of that, you know, most people, I'm sure like 90% of people that buy Games Workshop stuff, maybe even higher, are not trying to do display painting with it and appreciate like the lettering and engraving. It makes it easier. Doesn't mean I won't complain about it. I get why they do it. My first entry was a troll blood with a scroll. Found the letters they used for troll bloods and wrote what I wanted. That's hordes, right? Those are troll bloods, right? And War and the hordes proportions were just so weird. Trying to paint that shit. I had a big Legions of Everblight army. And when you got to the Ogrins, like their armor, the trim proportions were really weird. It was just not the most enjoyable painting experience. Hey, Joe. as we come up here, I'm going to come back and put in some darker reflection paint. But as long as we're in these highlighted areas where it's kind of jutting out, we'll get some more of this. As long as this paint lasts. It's actually, I need to get a humidifier because it's starting to dry out. The palette, I mean. I've been lurking while painting my first Resin Beast. What are you working on? What are you doing? This is also for Resin Beast. Unless you're just saying Resin Beast as in it is a beast model that is made out of resin and not the competition specifically. Competition, nice. Well, good luck. Remember, even if you don't place in the Resin Beast as a first-time competitor, you could end up with one of the New Blood prizes. I'm not going to get a lot of dark reflections in these big highlighted areas, but you know. Let's see. Oh, you're doing this guy. That's a really nice model. It's a very, very interesting take you got going for it. I think if you pull it off, it'll look pretty cool. Oh yeah, they have a. If you haven't placed in like a big competition before, you haven't entered Resin Beast before, you're like eligible for the New Blood for each category. Basically, you know, it's just the best painted model by someone who's new to the competition scene that didn't place. That's a nice way to encourage people to keep going and reward someone for giving, you know, giving the effort. All right, now I gotta come back. with the red. Some of these spots kind of got covered up with the gold paint. Dragon Surrealism. I mean, I think it's a really cool concept. I love to see shit like that. I just think if you're gonna do that, I would like to see, like, make sure that you're still doing the volumes correctly. That way, it looks like that's how that dragon actually is, and it's still, you know, reacting to the light appropriately. Because otherwise, it just looks like you tried doing a canvas paint on a 3D surface, and it doesn't look proper. It will look off. Thank you, Joe. Newbie at 64 already then? Hey. People start whenever, you know? Might spice up the volumes and scales more. So are you taking any classes at Adepticon, Joe? There we go. Okay. Oh, yeah, the paint's dying on my palette here. Should order a humidifier as soon as I'm done. feel like these miniatures have, like, Bestiarum has some kind of like D&D campaign or something associated with them. I don't think they have a like war game. Just wondering if they have like a written down alphabet or something so I can see like why some of these symbols are just repeating over and over again. They actually mean anything. Three classes: Cast Shadows with Eric, Dual Brushes with Brendan Roy. I don't know if that's Roy or Wa. I don't know if he's French Canadian. One on Sunday the 30th with Andy Wardle, Large Faces. Nice. Hopefully you learn a lot in those classes. Yes, the symbols are raised. We were discussing that earlier. I am not a fan of them. Oh, is that Brendan Paints? Is that what his online name is? So I never knew his last name. On the black backdrop, you get so noticeable, Dust. Oh, that's Brandon. Okay. Oh, he used to paint for PP. Gotcha. I think I'll need a nap at Adepticon. Well, thankfully, there's hotels all over the place. You can lay down in a bed and take a nap. I kind of lost touch with Privateer Press for a while. So I only remember a few studio painters. Like Matt, Dallas, Meg. I don't know who Brendan and Jordan are. I mean, if I saw their work, I'd probably recognize it. I just don't remember their names. It's not familiar to me. My dogs are getting excited. It's that almost that time for them to go frolic in the snow. Oh, Jordan's monument. Gotcha. Okay. Too bad the buffalo one looks fun, scary to paint. Did you get rid of your printer, or is it just packed up for the move? Or did it break? Gave it to Eric. I'll buy a new one when I get there. Oh, okay. All right. Don't need to do much more down there. Just trying to try and get the edges of these guys here, because they're in that curl down away from the light area. next stream, I think I'm gonna come back to the black cloth, continue doing some of that. We still have the blindfold to do. I'm debating whether I want to do it black or red. I was originally thinking black, but I don't know. Then we got the wooden handle here, the little hand wrap. The shield, that's going to be more of a silver steel. Some more gold. And then maybe I can prime the backdrop and start working on that too. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today.